Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and these are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Cabinet Committee headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviews situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Curfew continues in parts of the state as security forces conduct search operations in Uri and Naugam sectors. Prominent US lawmakers introduce an act to designate Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism. Ahead of his speech at the UN, Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif holds telephonic conversation with his army chief, General Raheel Sharif. Union Cabinet decides to merge the Rail budget with the General Budget, gives in principle approval to advance the presentation of annual budget by a month. And at UN General Assembly meet, Brazil's new president Michel Temer defends the impeachment of his predecessor Dilma Rousseff, while Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari claims his country is making inroads in its fight against Boko Haram. Our top story this evening, in a significant departure from the past, the Union Cabinet decided to merge the Rail budget and the General Budget. Further, it will also advance the presentation of the annual budget by a month. The CCEA also approved capital grant of 5,176 crore rupees to GAIL to develop a 2,539-kilometre long Jagdishpur-Haldia and Bokaro-Dhamra gas pipeline project.
One budget, which will be the general budget, and all proposals with regard to the railways will be a part of the general budget.
The Union Cabinet on Wednesday decided to end a 92-year-old tradition by merging the rail budget with the general budget. In order to make the exercise simpler, it also approved the removal of classifications for expenditure. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley also announced the in-principle decision to advance the date of budget presentation in Parliament from the usual February end.
While we in principle are in favor of finishing the entire financial business of the government before 31st of March, so that the implementation can begin on the 1st of April and the expenditures can begin, the taxation proposals can begin. The actual dates will be decided after a consultation depending on the calendar of the state assembly elections.
The Rail Minister said the merger of the rail and general budgets will not impact the functional autonomy of the railways. Instead, it will help in enhancing capital expenditure.
रेलवे की जो डिस्टिंक्ट आइडेंटिटी है द डिपार्टमेंटली रन कमर्शियल एंटरप्राइज इट विल बी बरकरार रहेगी, जैसे वित्त मंत्री जी ने कहा. फाइनेंशियल पावर रूल्स पावर जनरल मैनेजर डीआरएम को जो आज हमें उनको दे के रखे, वो भी उसी तरह से बरकरार रहेंगे. रेलवे को जो डिविडेंड देने की बड़ी लायबिलिटी होती थी 10,000 करोड़ से भी ज़्यादा, वो भी देने की ज़रूरत नहीं होगी.
The Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs also approved viability gap funding of 40% of the estimated cost of 12,940 crore to GAIL to develop the 2,539-kilometre long Jagdishpur-Haldia and Bokaro-Dhamra gas pipeline project.
2539 किलोमीटर की ये पाइपलाइन बनेगा. उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार, झारखंड, वेस्ट बंगाल और ओडिशा, ऐसे 5 राज्यों में ये स्प्रेड होगी.
In an attempt to check rising prices, the cabinet extended stock holding limits on traders of pulses, edible oils and oilseeds by 1 year till September 30th, 2017. It also gave ex post facto approval for the 20% hike in the pension given to freedom fighters and their descendants. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar asserted on Wednesday that those behind the Uri terror attack would not be spared. However, he admitted that security lapses could have triggered the attack. India also summoned Pakistan's High Commissioner Abdul Basit on Wednesday. It was conveyed to him that the latest attack only proves that terrorism on Pakistani soil is active and well. The Cabinet Committee on Security also discussed developments in wake of Sunday's terror attack in Uri.
Admitting that security lapses could have triggered the Uri terror attack, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar asserted that he would ensure such incidents are not repeated. He also added that the Narendra Modi-led BJP government is serious about punishing those responsible for the deadly attack at the army base in Uri.
When something goes wrong, while you try to correct it, you should also ensure that it does not happen again. We will definitely find out what went wrong. Also take steps to ensure that it doesn't go wrong again. And also, I think the country needs to ensure that the repetition of wrongs does not repeat again and again.
Taking the Uri probe ahead, India on Wednesday gave evidence of involvement of Pakistan-based terrorists to Pakistan and demanded that it refrain from supporting and sponsoring terrorism. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar summoned Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basit and told him that the latest terrorist attack only underlines that terrorism on Pakistani soil is active. Simultaneously, demand for a swift surgical strike on terror camps in Pak-occupied Kashmir has risen. Political parties, civilians as well as defence experts are demanding a quick and befitting response.
प्रधानमंत्री को धन्यवाद देना चाहिए कि जो लोग कहते थे प्रधानमंत्री विदेश में रहते हैं तो उसका आज नतीजा हुआ है कि प्रधानमंत्री का पर्सनल रिपोर्ट जो है सब देश के साथ और सब देश के प्रमुख के साथ इतना नजदीकी हो गया है और उन्होंने कन्विंस कर दिया कि पाकिस्तान जो है एक आतंकवादी राष्ट्र है.
We must be alert now. We have got to be on our toes. Our military will have to be agile because any attempt to infiltrate and then strike terror has to be stopped at the very inception.
We are proud of the fact that our armed forces have been able to retaliate in terms of sending out a clear message to the Pakistani terrorists that, look, such infiltration will be met with a strong hand. I think this is just not enough. Not only a message must go deep down, but the fierce psychosis must stick into every terrorist's head that he is going to the gallows in India.
In Srinagar, curfew remained in force in 3 police station areas as curbs were lifted from other parts following slight improvement in the tense atmosphere. Normal life, however, remained affected in the valley. Wednesday was the 75th consecutive day of restrictions. Shops, business establishments and petrol pumps continued to remain shut in Srinagar and elsewhere in the valley, while public transport was off the roads. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, just hours ahead of his UNGA speech, a huge setback for Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. 2 US lawmakers moved a bill in the House of Representatives in the United States to designate Pakistan as a terrorist state. US Secretary of State John Kerry, in his meeting with Pakistan's Prime Minister, also advised him to exercise restraint on nuclear activities. Pakistan, however, responded by saying that its nuclear activities can't be limited.
Even as Pakistan tries to shore up international support over Kashmir, 2 American lawmakers introduced an act in the House of Representatives to designate the country as a state sponsor of terrorism. Republican Ted Poe, who is chairman of the House Subcommittee on Terrorism, and Democrat Dana Rora Brasher, a ranking member of the subcommittee, moved the Pakistan State Sponsor of Terrorism Designation Act, saying it is time the United States stop paying Pakistan for its betrayal and designate it for what it is. In a statement, Ted Poe said, not only is Pakistan an untrustworthy ally, but Islamabad has also aided and abetted enemies of the United States for years. From harboring Osama bin Laden to its cozy relationship with the Haqqani network, there is more than enough evidence to determine whose side Pakistan is on in the war on terror, and it's not America's. The congressman also called on President Barack Obama to issue a report within 90 days of the passage of the act, detailing whether or not Pakistan has provided support for international terrorism. He further called for a follow-up report from US Secretary of State John Kerry,
determining that Pakistan is a state sponsor of terrorism or a detailed justification as to why Pakistan does not meet the legal criteria for designation. Even though the bill against Pakistan is largely symbolic, considering the current Congress is now in its final days, it's being seen as a setback to Pakistan's efforts to raise the stakes on the Kashmir issue.
आतंकवाद से कोई केवल अकेला भारत प्रभावित नहीं है, पूरी दुनिया प्रभावित है और अमन के दुश्मनों और इंसानियत के कातिलों के साथ कोई नहीं खड़ा हो सकता.
Pakistan is the world's worst terrorist exporting country. The US would be well within its rights, but I would expect other countries to follow suit.
We certainly would welcome that if such moves are taking place elsewhere in the world, and particularly in the United States, where two congressmen thought that they should get some official or authenticated version of Pakistan being a terrorist state.
On Tuesday, US Secretary of State John Kerry had also urged Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to exercise restraint in its nuclear ambitions. Pakistan, however, responded in the negative, with Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Maliha Lodhi, saying its nuclear program cannot be limited and the world should put an end to India's atomic activities first. However, news reports suggest that Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif may tone down his rhetoric against India in his UNGA speech. This following an earful from Western interlocutors on terrorism emanating from Pakistani soil. Nawaz Sharif also spoke to Pakistani Army Chief Rahil Sharif over the phone on Wednesday ahead of his UNGA speech. The two are reported to have discussed the situation in Kashmir and tense relations with India after the Uri terror attack. Following the deadly terror attack in Uri, tensions between the neighbours have mounted to an all-time high. Security at the borders have been heightened. The Indian forces have foiled at least 2 infiltration bids from across the border in the last 24 hours. Pakistan's national flag carrier, the PIA, has also cancelled flights to northern Pakistani cities, citing what it calls airspace restrictions in the wake of the Uri attack. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The government has cleared the much-anticipated Rafale deal with France on Wednesday. The deal paves the way for the purchase of 36 Rafale fighter jets, which will cost India €7.878 billion. The deal will be signed on Friday in the presence of French Defence Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian. Deliveries of the Rafale fighter jets will start in 36 months and will be finished in 66 months from the date of the contract is inked. These jets will come equipped with state-of-the-art missiles like Meteor and Scalp that will give the Indian Air Force a capability that had been missing in its arsenal. Some more national news updates now nationwide. Aam Aadmi Party leader Amanatullah Khan has been arrested in connection with a sexual harassment case filed by his sister-in-law. This is the second time in 3 months that the leader has faced action by the Delhi police. However, Khan alleges that he is being framed by the police, which is under pressure to arrest him. The Supreme Court on Wednesday said a new Maharashtra law prohibiting liquor in dance bars is absurd and indicative of the state's regressive mentality. The Maharashtra government, however, refused to back down, arguing that a state has an absolute right to ban liquor at any spot of its choice within the state. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Wednesday blamed Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his name being included in an FIR regarding alleged illegalities in appointments in Delhi Commission for Women. Kejriwal said a special session of the Delhi Assembly would be called to discuss the issue. The complaint against Maliwal was filed by former DCW chief and Congress leader Barkha Singh Shukla. Maliwal has denied the accusations. Time for us to take a short break. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned.
Gyan Chopper is the ancient version of Indian snakes and ladders. This intriguing game was popular among the old, the young, and the rulers as well. The chopper has its origin in the Jain philosophy. It tells the story of virtue, symbolized by the ladders, rewarded, while the vices shown by the snakes are punished. Each square, in turn, also narrates some message of wisdom.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, various heads of state addressed the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, while Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi told the Assembly that too little had been done to help fleeing migrants coming across the Mediterranean. The new Brazilian President, Michel Temer, defended the impeachment of his predecessor, Dilma Rousseff.
Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi addressed the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, stating that Italy accepted the challenge launched by the President of the United States to the General Assembly.
Del Mediterraneo, il luogo nel quale ci giocheremo la sfida della dignità, perché se non rimettiamo al centro i valori di umanità e di pietas in quell'area geografica, in quel fazzoletto, in quello spicchio di mondo.
Renzi was responding to pledges gathered by the US President Barack Obama from dozens of countries to resettle or allow lawful admission to some 360,000 refugees. This is double the number of slots available this year. Renzi, in his speech, urged the world and Europe in particular to do more to help the Mediterranean Sea, which migrants cross to come to Europe, a safer and more human place. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari discussed his country's progress in the fight against Boko Haram militant group.
Nigeria has made remarkable progress in our resolve to defeat Boko Haram, whose capacity to launch orchestrated attacks as a formed group has been severely degraded. In the last few months, their operations have been limited to sporadic use of improvised explosive devices against soft targets. Nigeria has continued to combat terrorism based on the established rules of engagement and in conformity with international best practices.
Brazil's new president, Michel Temer, on the other hand, told the international community that the impeachment of his predecessor Dilma Rousseff was conducted with absolute respect for the constitution.
Senhor Presidente, senhoras e senhores, trago às Nações Unidas, por fim, uma mensagem de compromisso inegociável com a democracia. O Brasil acaba de atravessar processo longo e complexo, regrado e
Peru's President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski flagged his country's concerns about Venezuela.
Es imprescindible que mencionen nuestra preocupación por la crítica situación política, económica y social que vive el amigo país de Venezuela. La plena
It was Kuczynski's first appearance at the UNGA after taking office in July. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani, Myanmar's government leader Aung San Suu Kyi and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe are among the speakers expected to address the United Nations General Assembly on the second day. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some more international news now in Global Buzz. At least 20 people were killed in flash floods triggered by torrential rains in Indonesia's West Java province. Local authorities identified 15 bodies, while 5 of them are still going through identification process. Hundreds of homes were destroyed by the floods and many residents have been forced to take refuge at local government facilities. Jeremy Corbyn was elected the leader of Britain's opposition Labour Party, defeating former Labour ministers. The 67-year-old initially did not expect to win the contest, but struck a chord with many supporters with his policies of taxing the rich, nationalising the railways and nuclear disarmament. With Corbyn the favourite to win when the result is announced on September 24th, the party faces a major struggle to try and reunite. An attacker was shot and wounded near the Israeli embassy in Ankara today. The Turkish police said that the assailant had shouted something outside the embassy before he was shot in the leg. The suspect appeared to be mentally unstable. So far, he's not been found to have any links to any organization. US federal prosecutors charged Ahmad Khan Rahami, an Afghan-American, for the New York bombing. The bombing had left 31 people wounded. Rahami had allegedly carried out twin bombings on Saturday in Manhattan's Chelsea neighborhood and along the route of a US Marine Corps run in the New Jersey town of Seaside Park. He was critically wounded in a police shootout on Monday and will be transported to Manhattan to face charges. Some sports now, and in a clear show of defiance to the Supreme Court-appointed Lodha Committee, the BCCI has named a 5-member selection committee headed by former wicketkeeper batsman MSK Prasad. The panel comprises 2 members with no Test experience, despite the Lodha panel recommending a 3-member panel, all with Test experience. The new panel, in fact, was decided at the BCCI's 87th annual general meeting and held in the backdrop of the Lodha Committee recommendations, which have not been accepted by the board yet. Prasad replaced Sandeep Patil as chairman of the selectors. The 41-year-old former player played 6 tests and 17 one-day internationals. Of the other 4 members, 2, Gagan Khora and Jatin Pranjpe, have no Test experience. The new selection committee has a combined international experience of just 13 tests and 31 one-dayers.
We have gone through this process. We got a lot of people, a lot of applicants came. We also got a first-hand insight into what their ideas are, what they wish to do, what their visions are. Plus, in the future, naturally the number of applicants were far more than the number of selectors we can appoint. But we have got an insight into the kind of manpower that is available to take up different positions in different places within the BCCI. वो आगे टीम के परफॉर्मेंस में देखा जाएगा. Selection panel का performance ultimately the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
The Indian Test team captain Virat Kohli has said that even though he is not overly worried about the Test team's recent struggles against spinners, this aspect was being worked upon. Coming ahead of the country's 500th Test match, this will be a tall task. India lost to Sri Lanka in the Gold Test last year due to their inability to tackle spin. Sri Lankan spinner Rangana Herath had wreaked havoc as India struggled to chase 176 and were all out for 112. Herath took 7 wickets in the second innings, evoking criticism and raising questions about the Indian team's traditional strength against spin. India will play the milestone test against New Zealand in Kanpur. The pitch at Green Park is expected to assist spinners, and this could spell trouble for Kohli's side.
Now we're putting in more effort to bat against the spinners longer in nets. Practicing small little things by ourselves as batsmen, whatever the strengths are. Someone might sweep, someone might play off the back foot, whatever it is, step out. We're trying to improve that area of our game slowly so that we can cover all bases. If you want to be a champion side, you obviously don't want to give the opposition any window to get into the game. And that is one area that, as you rightly mentioned, we have recognized that needs to be worked on through the course of this season. And the good thing is that we are playing a lot of Test cricket.
Some more sports action now in Sports Beat. Indian shooters continue their impressive show in the ISSF Junior World Cup with Rushiraj Barot striking gold in the junior men's 25-meter rapid fire pistol event on day 3 of the competition. The 19-year-old Indian, who qualified for the 6-man final in 5th position, edged out Lucas Kaumal of the Czech Republic 25-23 to record his first triumph at this stage. India picked up 4 more medals on day 3, including 1 more gold. They now sit firmly in second place on the medal table with 18 medals. Russia is at the top with 21. Spanish tennis star Rafael Nadal has denied accusations of illegal doping after being named in the latest series of leaks by the Russian hacker group Fancy Bears. The group claimed to have breached the files of the World Anti-Doping Agency and uncovered the identities of athletes permitted to take prohibited products for supposedly therapeutic reasons. Although Nadal admitted that he had taken such products, he insisted that he had done nothing wrong. Liverpool continued their recent good form by brushing Championship side Derby aside to reach the fourth round of the EFL Cup. Ragnar Klavan gave the visitors the lead, slotting in his first Reds goal from a Felipe Coutinho corner. Coutinho got the second before setting up Origi to lash in a third. Derby offered little throughout, producing only 2 shots to test keeper on his Liverpool debut. So that's news tonight. Good night.